I think it's really hard to predict and evaluate. You know, it's you can begin to try to analyze. We're going to play this team. We're going to play that team, and then all of a sudden, you know, probabilities don't, you know, turn out to be what you expect, or the highest probability doesn't happen. And I think there's a balance. You know, you want your team to be playing. You want to give yourself the best opportunity to win in the playoffs. Whether that means, you know, I think health, seeding, rest, home court, you know, rhythm, you know, be playing well. All those things go into it, and you know, you don't really know until it happens, and then it's easy to look at things in hindsight. You know, you may want to play a certain team, and then, you know, that team's playing well and they beat you, or you may think that, you know, anyway, there's so many contingencies that I think it's certainly hard, really hard to evaluate like right now. As you get closer to it, those are all things you take into consideration.
What have the conversations been like around the COVID-19 concerns the last few days, and how much are you involved in? I just want to know
Mhm.
what it's been like for you.
Well, we've tried to be proactive as far as just communicating internally, you know, particularly when our group was on the road. You know, Eric Waters and our medical staff, you know, we put together a presentation initially for the guys just to help raise awareness, and also to alleviate, to raise awareness, but alleviate kind of concerns that aren't as founded, you know. But I think, you know, and then we talked about it the other night after the game. There's small things that we can do that have been recognized or recommended to us by, you know, people that know. We had a meeting this morning, you know, with, you know, a group of experts, so to speak, from the U, which was really good, just as far as alleviating some concerns, fears, raising awareness, education. I think that's the main thing. I think, from my standpoint, you know, it's unfortunate that this is happening on so many levels, and it puts things into perspective. You know, like all things that are challenging, and particularly health, whether it's people that have, you know, loved ones that are more at risk than others, or you know, and then I think it's also important for us really not to look forward. I think to handle it and be educated, take the measures that are recommended, and then try to just focus on what we're doing while continuing to listen to, you know, the professionals that can give us guidance.
Yeah, and when you say not looking forward, as in like if the NBA comes out and says, you know, we're going to be playing in NBA arenas, that's not just some.
Yeah,
Just take it as it comes.
I think, yeah, not looking forward on a lot of levels, you know, whether it be how it impacts competition, how it impacts you individually, your family, you know, the organization, the people in the travel party, is to do what we can do right now, you know, and try to stay focused on the things that we can control. And then, as I said, you know, I think there's direction will continue to be provided to us. And then there's a lot of little things that that we can do, that I think, as much as anything, you know, control, you know, as much as you can control, and then you know, the other things, you know, not build them up in your mind where you're making, you know, creating more issues for yourself psychologically.
What you said after the game in Detroit the other night, that while there's still, you know, occasional lapses, it feels like the focus on the defensive end has been far greater over the course of the road trip.
Yeah, I think, you know, part of it, you work on things throughout the course of the year, and you know, you try to develop habits, and you know, it's hard for that to be perfectly consistent throughout every game throughout, but you start to see more focus collectively, and I think that's what you're working towards when I talk about, you know, playing your best at the end of the year. Sometimes things, you know, we had a game against these guys we're playing tonight that, you know, wasn't pretty, but I think our guys used that to improve. And you know, I think over the course of the last couple weeks, whether it's, you know, confidence you build from a winning streak, or going into the break playing well, coming out of the break not playing well, and you know, being able to you know, to react to that and focus on the things that can, help you get the right result. The other night, we were playing great and up 16-17, and all of a sudden, lead's gone, and then we were able to build it back to 13. Some of those swings are always going to happen, but if we can stay focused on the defensive end, I think that helps us mitigate those swings in our favor.
Seems like your rotation with Mike is back to similar to what it was when you started the year, where he comes out a little bit earlier. You change that. Why is it working this time so well, or what do you think is different?
Well, I don't think any of that stuff didn't work last time. If you look at a lot of the lineup data that we've had a number of really good lineups, regardless of whether it's Mike, Joe, Royce, whoever's been kind of in that mix. The other night we didn't finish with Boyan. That's going to happen. We finished with Mike and then put Joe in for defense at the end of the game. So I think the flexibility that our group has and the confidence they have in each other, our team's gotten better since the beginning of the year. So there's so many factors that go into evaluating rotations and things like that, and you're never going to get it completely right. Who knows what that means, but to the extent our players, in Mike's situation, he was on a minutes restriction, for a little while, and he couldn't play extended minutes. And then just, we didn't have Jordan at the beginning of the year during that stretch. We've played different guys at different times, and that could change too. It just depends.
Does it feel like your guys are getting a better expectation of just what is expected of them every night they go into the game?
I think what's expected of them is less. There's something to be said for quote unquote continuity. That's a real thing, especially as it pertains to different rotations. There's also something to be said for compete. You don't have to come in at 5 minutes instead of 4 and I'm not going to play defense till it's 4 minutes, because that's when I usually come in. Or if I come back, I'm not going to be aggressive shooting the ball. I mean, that's up. We can standardize and kind of create continuity and familiarity and rhythm, but a lot of those things, you can't look to that to determine whether or not you're going to play or compete. It's like saying, it's not our night, it's a back-to-back. We don't play well in back-to-backs, or that's not my matchup. I'm better against this guy than I am that guy. So, the more you externally kind of look for answers for how you're playing, the less control you have about what you're doing.
Were you surprised / impressed that Toronto lost a player of the caliber of Kyle Lowry, who's second in the East and has for a third best record in the league?
I think there's a natural inclination to look at them and say, well, anytime you lose a player of that caliber, but they played really well last year without Kawhi. I think that they clearly knew how competitive they would be and how good they are with the group that they currently have. I know, Nick's someone that I consider a friend and really respect. We were in the D-League together years and years ago, and he does a terrific job. So I think they play to their personnel as well as anybody. And, you look at Kyle Lowry, I think his leadership doesn't matter. He doesn't care who's out there. He's just trying to win. And Siakam, I think, has emerged as not just one of the best players in the East. You could argue, he's one of the best players in the NBA. And what he's given them, and, you go down the line, Norman Powell's playing great. Van Fleet is so competitive and knows how to play, and Gasol and Ibaka. So they've got good players. But the biggest thing about them, they're well coached, and you can just see that, the way that they connect with one another, and, they're confident, and they compete all the time.